is a concrete jungle, yet it is rich with history and beautiful scenery. Just a few train stations away and you're at a museum, or hop on a bus and go on a hiking trail in the woods. This week on DV, we're learning about the efforts of many who help preserve heritage and conserve nature in Hong Kong. Let's check in with Des, first in Tai O.
The Venice of Hong Kong. You know what? I've never really liked this moniker for Tai O, a modern-day fishing village on Lantau Island. And I'll tell you why I don't like it. Because it seems like Tai O is somehow not enough, that we have to borrow from a fancy city in Europe. Truth be told, Tai O is a pretty cool place, unique in itself, and has a lot to offer. And it might even tell us a thing or two about Hong Kong, which itself was a sleepy little fishing village back in the 19th century before it developed into the modern-day city it is today. They say you can understand a place and know where it's heading by knowing about its past. So today I'm going to be spending the day in Tai O learning about its heritage and culture by talking with its people.
There's no better place to start learning about the past than at one of the oldest fishing villages. Its stilt houses are their most unique landscape. Looks like Des has found a resident to chat with. Let's find out more.
How long have you been living here?
So
it turns out that Mr. Leung has been living here for 3 or 4 generations, and he himself was born here. Why are there stilt houses? What's the history behind them?
喺國內嗰度咧做耕種嗰時候咧，農民漁民啊嗰啲河口啊就做生意。嗰船爛嗰時候啦，咁咪裝隻新船嗰隻船個牌喺度啊，擠一樣爛㗎。咁我揾隻勝高佢咯，勝高嗰時候咧又係爛㗎，咁啊再搭一間寮仔啊咁嘢咯，咁先搞成有棚屋啦。
Oh, so the way stilt houses came about, it was by accident. They didn't build the houses. What happened were there were day laborers who came from the mainland and they were working in this area and their boats would break down, there'd be holes in them, and they'd just leave them on the side of the shore and then they'd get a new boat, and then eventually the old boat got more and more beat up and they put it up on stilts to protect it from the elements, and then more old boats broke down and they put it more on stilts, and eventually they built covering on top of the boats, and that's how these stilt houses came about. What's the special design behind the houses?
你嗰間棚咧就近岸啊嘛，近住水啊，近住水就睇到隻船咯，泊住喺度啦，咁咪俾樓我哋都唔要嘅。
So the design of the house, you see there's an area here where the boats can actually come right up to the house. And Mr. Leung was telling me the boat obviously is their livelihood, it's their tool, it's for their trade. And so it's really valuable, and it was really important for them to keep an eye on this asset. And before they said, you know, there'd been offers for them to give up their stilt houses to move into permanent housing, but they're like, no, we can't do it because we have to be close to the boats to keep an eye on them. So tell me more about the people of Tai O, the indigenous people and the sense of community here.
嗱舊時咧，我哋漁民咧係好多陸上嗰啲人蝦我哋嘅，有啲人組織起嚟咧搞間漁民互助社，咁至咧嗰啲漁民嘅團結咯。
So Mr. Leung tells me there's a really strong sense of community in this place, and it's not surprising for a place like this. But how that came about was the people who were in the fishing business, when they first came here, they got bullied by the local residents, and so they had to kind of form together, and eventually a fishermen's association was formed. And of course, there's a lot of good things that came about. Concrete things like schools got built, and there's a sense of community, and that sense of community continues today.
我哋啲漁民咧就好樂意幫助人嘅，同啲老人家啊，將啲棚屋壓低啊，將啲雪櫃啊打風嗰時候升高啊，我哋一樣係好樂意做嘅。
Mr. Leung himself is still very active in volunteering, giving back to the community. He says the bond is very tight, and whenever something happens, because there are a lot of old people now, if elders need help moving a fridge or if there's flooding, they all go in to help. Melanie, it's great to see you. Let's start with a basic question. What is a heritage hotel? And tell us a little bit of history about this place.
Great. Well, first of all, I think it's really amazing that we are actually celebrating the 120 years old of this building itself. As you know, that this building used to be one of the earliest marine police Station in Hong Kong. This is not just running as a hotel, but more importantly, it plays a role to promote sustainable tourism and cultural tourism as well. So for instance, if you look into our architectural features, you can see how we preserved almost everything that you see around here have a long, profound history.
Right.
So the bulletproof window, the fireplace, and also the sports light, etc. These actually, it's really exciting to tell the guests that these are over 120 years old and also host very important cultural heritage as well.
Tell us more about how it relates to Tai O, the community as a whole, and how it's helping to preserve the heritage here.
First of all, in our hotel operations, over half of our staff are from Tai O and Lantau.
Wow.
Yes, and most of them are actually youngsters as well, because it's very important for us to keep recruiting the energetic youngsters from the village so that they don't have to go outside to find jobs.
Yep.
And also, as you know, Tai O used to have the aging population issues as well. So that really helps in the first place. And secondly, as the foundation itself, which supports the community in many ways. For instance, during the festive seasons, we actually helps to support them. The water marriage parade, for instance, very traditional events, and it really helps to keep going with traditional spirit as well. Every day we have 3 guided tours, and our young ambassadors can bring them around to see the hotel, to tell them about the history. And also we run a lot of festive workshops in this hotel as well to help promote the cultural tourism.
Do you have any concrete stories you can share of people from Hong Kong who came to this place and saw it and learned something about Tai O and its heritage that they didn't know before?
It's really happy and exciting feeling every time our guests came in, and first they didn't know about anything about this hotel, but after doing the guided tour, after staying with one night, and they really appreciate the effort. Even though we only have 9 rooms, but in each of the rooms we do have a Tai O channel, and we have many videos to showcase the Tai O stories. When we actually first have this project, we also interviewed the former Tai O police officers. So we bring our guests around in the hotel, we share with them their stories as well.
History and...
History, exactly. And one thing that we are very happy is that because staycation is very popular nowadays, especially with COVID-19. So in order to run a successful project, it's also important to connect with the community. So we are promoting this not just as a hotel, but also as a sustainable destination with the villages. They learn about their stories, we bring them to the stilt house, the temple, we have the boat tour. So they actually spend longer time in Tai O, and therefore knowing the enriched history of the Tai O village.
So it's a very organic experience.
Exactly.
蘭姨你好 How do you develop your passion for photography?
因為我老豆咧就係佢影相嘅，咁啊拎嚟玩下嘅啫。啊影相佬有個影相機噃，咁係咪影相㗎？咁我老豆話係啊，咁於是一影開咧就冚唪唥識咧就叫佢去棒嗰度影啊。
She said it was passed on to her from her father. Her father was Macanese, moved from Macau here after the war, and there was really nothing to do. So he had a camera with him and he would take photos just as a hobby. But then he actually developed a business taking licensing photos, as in licensing photos for the fish trawlers. And of course, word of mouth spread quickly that there was someone in town doing this, and all the fishermen called him up and they would have him come to their stilt houses to take photos. And Lan Yi, of course, tagged along to help her father out.
冇嘢㗎，就係扯住塊布就影㗎啦。塊布喺後邊，唔係而家咁新奇嘅。
And it was really simple back in the day. She'd just bring a cloth and they'd throw up a cloth, clipped it on, and boom, that's the backdrop for the photo. Because her father passed away at quite a young age, she took over the business. A lot of your photos are about the old police station and policemen. Why?
嗰班人好悶嘅，因為大澳冇乜娛樂㗎嘛。咁即係好中意啊影相揾帶，咁我話我可以跟你去影相，咁啊同佢影下啲風景相啊。 走嚟呢度又影啊，差館又影啊，咁樣啦。
Back in the day, there really wasn't much entertainment out here in Tai O, and so the policemen were bored. And so Lan Yi's father would pitch the idea of taking photos for these policemen, and they liked the idea of them being out in the wilderness and shots of them with the natural scenery. And so they would agree to, let's say, purchase a roll of film, and then her father and her would tag along and they would hike into the mountains, and each policeman would buy a roll of film. Now, over the years, you must have accumulated many, many photos. What have you done with these pictures?
咁我諗住咧都係送翻晒俾佢哋。喺大會堂嗰陣時租咗幾個鐘， 咁佢冚唪唥攞嚟睇過晒，咁佢係佢自己就要，唔係佢自己就唔要。
Her intent and her desire is actually to return to the original owners. So what she's done in the past, for example, here at the Tai O City Hall, she did a pop-up to invite people to come back and try and find pictures of themselves. And if people could recognize themselves, she would give the photos and the negatives back to the people.
有啲咧佢識嘅咧，你好似拎翻香港仔啊、鴨脷洲啊嗰啲，佢揾翻啲移民，即係佢以前佢哋識嘅朋友，就幫我送翻晒俾佢哋。
Some of the original residents here have moved on to places like Ap Lei Chau, and so sometimes friends would come and they would recognize friends or relatives in the photos, and she would also give away the negatives to those people to give back. After spending the day in Tai O and talking with different parties, some of whom are from Tai O and some of whom are not, I realized what they have in common is they want to preserve Tai O, whether it's a preservation of a way of life, preservation of architecture, or preservation of memories. So collectively, what they're doing is continuing to tell the story of Tai O to the rest of the world. And in a fast-paced, ever-changing city like Hong Kong, that is heartwarming.
Welcome back. Let's check in with Yancy, who is in Taiwan.
Where does paper come from? Paper comes from trees, that's obvious, right? However, did you know Hong Kong offices uses a staggering 190 million pieces of paper every week? That is shocking. So is there another alternative of getting paper without using trees? Actually, there is. Today I'll be talking to a few guests who are currently already doing that. Let's go find out more.
How refreshing to hear that there are innovative ways to conserve our natural resources than just recycling. Breaking the cycle of cutting down trees does sound great. Tell us more, Yancy.
Hello, Polly. It's very nice to meet you here with all these papers next to us. I really want to know why we are actually meeting here.
So to begin with, I can tell you that right now in the world, we are nearly using 400 billion trees.
400 billion
Trees are
Wow.
cut to make paper.
Just office paper or
Yes,
paper
just-
in general?
Just office paper, and this is 1 year. Unless it is recycled, it will be ending up in the landfill, which we see every day. We see it here, we see it there, you know, it's just not what the earth needs right now.
So what have you done to, help this problem?
At my company, what we are doing right now is that we are using waste to make into something that can be used by everybody without cutting the trees. We are making paper using all kinds of waste materials. And when I say waste materials, we have textile waste, we have agricultural waste, and we have animal waste.
Animal waste?
Yes.
What kind of animal waste?
Elephant poop. Elephants are always eating trees. They are always eating leaves. And when you eat vegetables, when you eat plants, and when you eat leaves, what do you have? A lot of fiber. So when they poop, which is one elephant will poop about 250 kgs a day, you can collect that and clean it up and make it into paper.
Yeah.
So at our company, we have the whole unit that is set up to
Yeah.
clean the poop and get the fibers out. After we get the fibers, we cook it so that it's completely clean of bacteria. And then we put it into the pulping machine where it's pulped with a lot of water, and then we make it into papers. So that whole process and all the units are set up at our factories in India, which are doing all this work.
Actually, this process does sound like it needs a lot of research and a lot of resources. But what is the motivation behind all of this?
You know, global warming is real.
Yeah.
What the earth is going through is real. We are seeing a lot of changes in the weather. To keep that intact for our future generations, we have to do this. We have to be motivated to be using waste and not cutting down trees. You know, every brand, every company will say that we do use recycled paper.
Yeah.
We do use FSC certified paper. Now, those papers are good to use, but hey, you know, you are still cutting down a tree for those papers. So we have to think out of the box to have people believe in this, to have people love this product and, you know, hopefully replace the papers that we are using now with these beautiful handmade tree-free papers.
What about, do you think, Hong Kong's education towards this movement?
Yes, it's very, very important. And I really believe that education starts at a younger age. So I have started a program at my company where I'm reaching out to all the schools in Hong Kong to go and talk about my papers. And I'm very excited how the kids are responding to it. Which kid does not like poop, right? Yeah. So they love talking about it. They love how we are using all kinds of waste to make it into beautiful papers.
Hello, Tracy. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I just want to know why you established this printing and packaging company.
So we are a family-run business, packaging and printing business. Very glad that we are still able to in the market for 20 years, nearly.
20? Wow.
Yes.
I know you do focus on sustainable paper.
This is actually very popular recently, and people are like mentioning everything about eco-friendly sustainability. And this is what really we have to focus on nowadays. As you may know, our products are all from paper. So if we do have an alternative substitute, it's a really, really great thing that it's actually happening in the market.
Why did you personally wanted to go for a more sustainable paper for your printing packaging company?
Right, so the amount that we actually use, like say per month in our factory, it's about 100 tons.
A month?
A month.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yes.
So, luckily, I actually met Polly. She introduced tree-free paper to me. As well as we have like strategies and plans at work in mainland China factory. We do have solar panels to support the own factory electricity supply, a good sewage system measure control, and we do have like paper recycling scheme as well.
From a client point of view, why would they choose to use this premium, more recycled, sustainable paper?
I think the trend, it's glad that the media is actually raising awareness and more corporate, not talking about big corporate, even small business, they want to actually do something. Every time when I talk to my clients, I mention, we do have tree-free paper, would you like to try? So hopefully we can actually help the corporate to be more sustainable, to have a better future for our kids as well. Yeah. If I educate my kids, I have to tell them the importance of like saving trees, saving paper. I actually take some time at home and then get the scrap paper that we actually use, put them in a blender, use a tray, simply make some recycled paper. They really enjoyed it.
But what about the ink that you use for these products and packaging?
That's a very good question. In the old days, we actually used all sort of like ink, like involve all the chemicals. So the trend is actually use soy ink. So
soy ink?
Soy ink,
Okay.
So they are from like soya, the beans.
Oh.
And so it's, well, I can say they are plant-based ink. So to the environment, to the customer, and even to our staff is actually very good. And they do not involve any chemicals.
Joyce, thank you for meeting me here. So I know you actually worked with Polly before and used her paper in your packaging.
Yes, so we work with brands that wanted to promote their sustainability stories. So when one of our clients wanted to create a media gift set that really try to articulate their sustainability missions and vision, I remember Polly, that comes up to mind, because she has this amazing seed paper that really try to reduce waste. And also empower local community by hiring women to work for her. So we think this is really a brilliant idea.
How did you find her in the first place, and how long have you been working with her?
We actually met at a sustainability conference.
Yeah.
So we are like-minded to really try to see how businesses can have a role to play in social missions and creating social impact for good. I remember she telling me that creating a calendar, it's only a one-year product. And you don't need all the papers all the time. So I think it's a brilliant idea to really use seed paper that can be biodegradable. At the same time, after use, they can actually grow a plant out of it.
Yeah, I was about to mention, what is seeded paper?
So the paper inside, they have seeds. So once the paper is after use, you can break down the paper, put it into soil, add water, and then
grow it into a plant.
For different months of the year. Each paper, they can also grow into different types. For the calendar. So it's a really amazing idea. When one of our clients approached us and say we wanted to create a gift for media and also for the customers, I immediately think about poly because corporate gift is actually can produce a lot of waste, and we wanted to make sure when the client wanted to tell the sustainability story, we wanted to be able to walk the talk as well. So we are really conscious about the type of vendors that we are working with.
What is the feedback from your clients after receiving the products made from these papers?
It's very positive. So from the get-go, because when the client reached out to us and saying that they wanted to do something about promoting the sustainability initiatives, so when we said, why not partner with vendors that have the same mission?
Yes.
So they're very supportive when we proposed poly, and once they see the product, they really loved it.
We learned that paper not only comes from trees, but it can be made from textiles, food, and animal waste. Even though the process of making these paper can be a lot more complicated, however, it serves for a greater purpose. I'm not telling you not to use paper because we use it in our daily life. However, next time when you do use paper, maybe you could think about where the paper source comes from.